Hello everybody and welcome back to another Java tutorial. Today we are going to be going over constructors. Now constructors at first can be a little confusing. I had to explain it to a friend, and people are just generally really bad at teaching what constructors mean. They have like a whole 15-minute video on it from what I've seen on YouTube, and then they have like 2 paragraphs worth of stuff. For a beginner, all of the stuff that they show seems confusing because they're really long, a lot of words, or just a long video, and they use a lot of vocabulary that you don't know yet. So I'm going to break it down very simply. A constructor is essentially a method that is called within an object when that object is first created. Let me repeat that. A constructor is basically a method that is inside of an object, and that method is only called and always called whenever that object is created or a new instance of that object is created. That's it. And it works exactly like any other method. You can even pass in parameters into it. That's all it does. Alright, so let's get into it. So let's just delete some of this code, or all of this code, and delete this code, and let's just delete this. Okay, so here, let's just refactor and rename this, and we can call this body size. Right. So, actually, you know what? Let's rename it just to have it make more sense. We can call this human. Right. This object is called a human. And humans have a bunch of different attributes, or a bunch of different, things that define them. But for now, we're just going to stick with the width and the height. Let's just pretend that these are the only two things that a human has, right? And we can add on to more of them later on. So, now let's create a constructor. To do this, let's type in public. Now we want to type in the name of our class, or which also means the name of our object, which in this case, if you look up here, the class's name is human. And then we just put in the parentheses, just like we do with a method. And then we can create a space, do some curly braces. There you go, you've created a constructor. So, here we can print out the constructor was called, right? Printing that out. Now, it's not actually being called, though, because we haven't created human. And remember, the constructor is only called when a new instance of this object is created. And it's the first thing that is called. It's like the initialization, in a way. It's the first thing that is called when a duplicate of an object is created. So, let's go over here. And let's create a new human. We'll just call this him Bob. Use a new human. You can see that even though we're not doing anything with this object, human is being called because we created this human. So let's run it, and you can see it says the constructor was called. So, this constructor, any constructor, is always called the moment that you create a new instance of it. And here we are creating a new instance of it. We're creating a new human. And even though we're not doing anything with it, the constructor is still called because the constructor is always called. Under no circumstances is the constructor not called when an instance of the object that it's in has been created. So, what is this used for? Well, mainly it's used for stuff like this, defining attributes. So, I said that this works very much like a method, which is true. We can put in parameters. So let's just put in the string, and we can say his name, and then we can put in an int for the width, and then an int for the height. And up here, let's just create another variable, private string, and we can call this name. And now it'll say we have a problem, and we do, because we have an error, because now we have to pass in the parameters in these parentheses. We'll pass in the name, which is Bob. We'll pass in the width. We can say it's 20, and the height is 70. I don't know, that's an inaccurate measurement, but whatever. And let's just set this to 35. Nope. 40. Nope. 30. So, now, we can go down here. We can say, just like we do in our setters, we can do this dot name equals to name, this dot width equals to width, and this dot height equals to height. And that's it. Constructors are always used when creating an object, right? Because you pass in values to initialize. So, right here, when we create this human, we pass in the name, we pass in the width, and we pass in the height, and all three of those values get stored in these variables, and then we set these variables within the object to those variables that we passed in right here into the constructor. So now, why did we do this? Well, we did this that way. The human that we created, or Bob that we created, will always have these values set from the very beginning of when he was first created. He will always have a name, and he will always have a width and a height. That's how you make a constructor, and that's what it does. Hopefully you understood that well, and I was able to keep it under 10 minutes to avoid hypocrisy. So, the next time you see a tutorial that's 15 minutes long explaining constructors, dislike it and exit out of the video, because obviously they're making it too complicated. If somebody doesn't know what a constructor is, then they probably don't know the vocabulary they are using in a paragraph-long response to what a constructor is, or in a 15-minute video as to what a constructor is. Because in the end, it is very simple when it comes to beginners levels. So, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.